Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Trap on the Boomer Bust channel, Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host, Terry, and today I want to take a look at Kyle Fuller and why he's a good case for why people need to stop being so reactionary to players. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole Packers thing. I think we talked about that ad nauseum. So whether you liked locking Kyle Fuller up for a long term or not, or however you might feel about how that went down, it's safe to say that a lot of Bears fans are on board with keeping him around for a multitude of reasons. Now, I still am the one that will sit here and tell you that people could care less about him last year, and now all of a sudden it's all about keeping him on the team. But even with that being said, I still think we can sit down and look at this as a great case study of why we can't be reactionary. So this again goes back to kind of draft philosophy, but more so player development, which is important. And if you watch any of my draft stuff, you know when I flash back to grade a draft, I go back 3 years. It takes at least, I would say, 3 years, 3 full seasons of work to properly evaluate a player or a whole draft class. And we've seen it so many times, and you heard me say this is a reactionary society, but it's so true. I mean, especially with sports, it's absolutely ridiculous how fast people are trying to either dismiss a player or crown a player. And I think it all goes back to the fact that fans of football especially, they want things to be black and white. Yeah, you suck or you're good. That's all it is to it. And that's not how it works. Especially football, which is a very complex sport with a lot more factors to it than the average fan realizes. And so for me, when I talk about prospects and when you talk about people in the league, and I've always said, and some people disagree, but it's true, 95%, maybe 98% of players are scheme dependent. Meaning that based on what you ask them to do, that's how well they're going to produce. Not everybody is built to perform in every scheme. And we've seen it for years and years, and yet people still don't believe it. They don't understand how Pro Bowl players sign with a new team and all of a sudden they're not that great anymore. They don't understand how a player can leap to something completely different from one season when they get a new coach or something like that. And so even though we've seen it over and over again, people don't really understand that that's the case. But even outside of scheme, you're talking about relationships. Football players are people. Certain coaches they don't jive with, or certain relationships might be some way, or the locker room. You never know. Because there is skill, there is scheme and IQ, but there is the physical part where even if you got the talent, you got to work at it. And some people don't have the mindset to continue to work. You think like a Jamarcus Russell, for whatever things he went through, and his natural talent couldn't carry him because he wasn't willing to put in the work. So we've seen so many cases over the years that there's a number of reasons why players don't work out. And so the opposite is also true. There's a number of things that can change or that can cause a player to become a productive player. But you can't label people too quickly. You can't really label, players until you see a body of work, but also keeping an open mind that certain things can change. And a lot of fans don't do the work. They don't, scout and whatnot. So they don't understand what a player's strength is. So you might look at a player and not understand, well, if we move to a more, Tampa cover 2 system, he could really shine. Most fans don't know that stuff. And so they just assume the player sucks. And so when they go to another system and then they start to play well, they're like, oh, okay. And so all this comes back to Kyle Fuller as our case study, because as Bears fans, we've seen it over the years. Now, what clicked this year, I couldn't tell you personally. As far as his skill set, I've always was a fan of his skill set. I scouted him coming out. I was really in love with him. I also thought he would be a better safety. And I think had they moved him and, kind of trained him to be a safety, he would be a lot better than he has been. But, even still as a corner, I understood what he could bring to the table and what limits he had. Now, he came in the Mel Tucker system. And so Mel Tucker was, first of all, he was not a good fit. Let's just put it that way. And I don't think Mel Tucker had any semblance of control of that, scheme. And now we're talking about Vic Fangio. So a lot of people are saying, well, it clicked because he understood the system. And that's laughable. That's laughable because he didn't play last year. I mean, he could have known the system inside out, backwards, forward, upside down. It don't matter if you don't get on the field. The man chose not to play for whatever reason. We heard it was an issue with Fangio. It might have started with somebody else, who knows, but I know Fangio wasn't a big fan of him. And so for whatever reason, he didn't play. And, so the whole thing with him figuring out the system had nothing to do with it. And so this year, we didn't do much different, I don't think, in terms of scheme. And as far as our coverages, it was a lot of cover 2 base or man 2 base. So, we do a lot, but I think that's kind of what he's always been. He's been a guy that can, play underneath coverage and man coverage. He's not a burner. He's not somebody that's going to, be able to take a receiver and cover him up all the way downfield. He's a guy that plays underneath well with over the top coverage. He has enough finesse and he's savvy enough to get underneath routes and make plays on the ball. And so it does come down to him wanting it. And a lot of people understood that this year as well, that it came down to his drive and personality. Now, what factors go into that, we don't know. But if you just look at what he did up until that point, kind of, a so-so, rookie year. I remember people were like going nuts because he had, that first handful of weeks where he was getting interceptions. And, once again, reactionary. Oh, he's all this, he's that. And then it just fell off. And then again, we get up to the year after that where it was like, okay. And then we get the Fangio stuff. And now we get here where he, actually produced. So now we're sitting at a point where people are feeling like he's valuable. There's articles calling him a star. There's a lot of people calling him homegrown talent, which is hilarious to me. But again, I'm not going to go negative. My point being again is that you can't write people off. And as much as I say on this channel, I will hope to continue to have those higher conversations and we get fans to get to a higher point in Chicago because it has swept society, it swept the sports media where we are just so reactionary. Jared Goff, 7 games, not even a whole season, 7 games thrown in, look back, oh, he sucks. I wish I recorded all the people talking about, oh, I wonder what you could get for a trade. It's probably time to move on from Jared Goff. Now all of a sudden, oh, he's great. I mean, I don't subscribe to the, oh, wow, numbers are there, so now he's good. Oh, I didn't see numbers before, so now he sucks. No, that's not how it goes. It's deeper than just numbers. And so I don't subscribe to that. And so if you don't have the wherewithal to understand a player's talent when they're not doing well, then I don't want to see people jumping on bandwagons when they do well. But my point being is that you can't keep writing people off. It's the same way you can't crown them and sit here and say how great they are right off the bat either. You got to give it time to let them build a body of work. And then you also got to understand that a player can always turn it around, because the schemes and the other factors that go into being a football player are always going to be there. And I think Kyle Fuller is a good case. Now, whether he continues the way he played or he goes and regresses, that's up to different factors. But people get locked into this whole, you suck or you're a really good player. And it's not that black and white. It's not that simple. So anyway, those are my thoughts. Kyle Fuller been a good case study on the whole phenomenon of people kind of being reactionary to labeling players. Love to go to the comment section and hear your journey with Kyle Fuller, because I know most people weren't sitting there saying he's going to be great next year when he was sitting out last year. So would love to hear your thoughts. Go to the comment section, start talking, commenting, thumbs up, subscribe, share it around. Remember, stay up and bear down.